Hello, my name is Susan Reckseidler, and I am the current president of ALFAM, the Association for Living History, Farm and Agricultural Museums, as well as the Director of Interpretation at Heritage Park Historical Village in Calgary, Canada. Thank you for the opportunity to present during your virtual symposium, Coping with Crisis in Agricultural Museums. I wanted to select an appropriate opening slide for this presentation, and this image seemed to fit the bill. Dealing with crisis has required us to be like a team of oxen, facing head-on into the wind, plodding one step at a time. However, at times over the past 8 months, I feel this image has been more appropriate. We've been holding on to the reins for our dear lives. Like AIMA, ALFAM had grand plans for the year 2020. It was 50 years ago that our organization was formed, and we were so looking forward to gathering in Boston, Massachusetts for our annual conference in June. But like museums and living history sites around the world, the doors to our sites were shuttered, programs and signature events were canceled, individuals faced furloughs and layoffs, and others had to learn how to navigate the new realities of telecommuting or juggling the responsibility of keeping watch over their collections and ensuring livestock were fed and cared for. UNESCO suggested earlier this year that 1 in 10 museums may not reopen. And in the United States, the outlook was even more dire, with the American Alliance of Museums reporting that 1/3 of museums thought they would not survive the year. This is a reality that none of us want to face. Our emergency plans have prepared us for recovering from flood, fire, or major weather events, but a worldwide pandemic was not in our playbook. The one thing we held in our hearts, though, of failure is not an option. Members of ALFAM have held true to our mission statement during the past several months. We draw strength from our diverse network of members sharing experience, research, and passion for participatory learning. During this time of crisis, there have been remarkable demonstrations of resiliency and creativity among our memberships. We found new ways to connect with our audiences through virtual tours, online tutorials, and other engaging activities. There are inspiring stories of sites supporting local communities by providing produce from their fields and gardens, museums donating personal protection equipment, or sewing masks to keep everyone safe. I would like to now share with you Heritage Park's experiences over the past several months and how we reimagined our operations and set a course for a gradual reopening after a March 15th shutdown. To begin, a little bit about Heritage Park, pre-COVID-19. Heritage Park is situated on 127 acres, 51 hectares of parkland in the city of Calgary. We have been in operation since 1964. Our mandate is connecting people with the settlement of Western Canada and preserving our culture and heritage. And we do so through 4 thematic areas: an Indigenous encampment and fur trading post, a pre-railway settlement, a 1910 Prairie Railway village and ranch, and a 1930s town square featuring a year-round transportation museum. Some of our iconic exhibits include a steam train that circulates the park on 2 kilometers of track, a paddle boat, and an antique midway. Each year, we welcome over 500,000 visitors, including 65,000 school children. To support our operations, we manage our own retail and food outlets and self-cater hundreds of on-site banquets each year, which comprises over 35% of our annual revenue. Admissions generate 23%, and 20% of our operating is through grants, including a municipal operating grant. A nice mix of self-sufficiency. That is, of course, until COVID-19 hit. Like many other non-essential services in the province, Heritage Park closed our doors on March 15th, and all programs and services ceased until further notice. The COVID-19 shutdown and ongoing restrictions represent one of the most significant challenges in the 56-year history of Heritage Park, and we had to make some difficult management choices to reduce costs. We assessed what was required to keep staff safe and to protect our assets. Once the dust settled, we began to respond with new innovations. We put school lessons online as virtual field trips and provided tours and content through our social media channels. With our restaurant shut down, we offered curbside pickup for the Selkirk Grill restaurant and fresh treats from the Alberta Bakery. In May, our civic and provincial governments announced stage 1 of an easing of restrictions, which included museums. It was rewarding to know that museums matter in the well-being of our communities. However, with that news came a slew of questions. How do we ensure the safety and well-being of our staff, volunteers, and guests? How do we monitor guest flow and install social distancing measures? What does the guest experience look like? How do we safely clean and disinfect surfaces in a historic house environment? The list was endless. Our provincial government released a series of reopening guidance documents which provided some good direction for measures to have in place before opening. The park's Occupational Health and Safety Committee developed exposure control plans for various aspects of our operations, which guided our own phased reopening. This began first with the stores of the Heritage Town Square on May 27th, the Gasoline Alley Museum on June 3rd, and the Historical Village on June 27th. The experience in the village was greatly restricted, including no SS Moy paddle wheeler or midway rides, no dine-in options, and the closure of many high-touch exhibits. We put the safety of our guests, staff, and volunteers at the forefront of our decisions and ensured we operated in total compliance with provincial health service guidelines. Some of the operational changes we made included closing on Mondays and Tuesdays, reducing admission rates, and implementing an advanced purchase time ticketing system to help manage overall park capacity and reduce lineups at the gate. Our staffing and volunteer numbers were greatly reduced. Typically, we hire over 600 seasonal staff to help bring the park to life each summer, yet that number was reduced to 130. Our pool of active volunteers was also greatly reduced. However, we did have the advantage of being able to offer guests ample parkland and a place where they felt safe. We did our best to animate the outdoor spaces through street theater performances and other activities. Our gardens were well maintained, offering wide open spaces for visitors to walk around and explore. Our standards for success certainly changed this year, but I do have a few highlights to share. Digital engagement was crucial throughout the past 7 months. We were pushing content out through social media, including behind-the-scenes tours, recipes, and at-home activities. There was weekly engagement with our annual pass holders through an e-newsletter. Our tagline for the season, Distance Yourself from 2020, was printed on face masks and t-shirts for sale through our retail outlets. Even our COVID safety measures had a unique Heritage Park touch. We safely operated summer camps. With school shutting down in the spring, the park was certainly void of the groups of children that we're accustomed to seeing. However, with the province's launch of Stage 2, we were permitted to run summer camp programs. With less than a month to prepare, our education staff modified our camp program content and established all the safety protocols that were required. Camps ran in cohorts of 8 children, and we were able to utilize a variety of programming spaces that were not accessible to the general public. There were rigorous guidelines in place, but as you can see, that didn't prevent participants from having a great time. Of course, not all families were prepared for face-to-face programming, so as an option, we created a camp in a trunk filled with games, crafts, and activities to do at home. We learned how to modify our special events. Most of our major summer activities were cancelled. However, leading into the fall, we found creative ways to safely manage some of our events. In September, we held our 46th annual Fall Harvest Sale, which was held in conjunction with the Calgary Produce Marketing Association. This event is essentially a farmer's market with tons of fruits and vegetables being donated by producers and sold at bargain prices, with proceeds donated to the park and local charities. Timed entry, spacing of stalls, and managing the direction of visitors helped make this event a success, and we safely welcomed 4,300 visitors over the weekend. This information has helped guide our Halloween and Christmas events, although we will be focusing more on outdoor activities than in past years. Fund development also took on a new look for the year as we were forced to cancel our signature fundraising events. Our annual giving campaign was delayed until we knew the park would be reopening, as no one wanted to be competing with the appeals from frontline services and healthcare. We tried new initiatives like a 50-50 raffle and hosted a non-event event, featuring a gourmet takeout meal and an online auction. I wish I could conclude that everything is great. However, the stark reality is that we saw an 83% reduction in attendance and an 81% decrease in non-grant revenues, which we know is not sustainable. Our survival this year would not have been possible without the support of visitors and annual pass holders, donors and sponsors, and the federal government wage subsidy. Next year, as we continue to set a course to recovery, we know that we need to bring more of our experiences back and continue to rebuild our audiences. Around the world, we are seeing great examples of resiliency and creativity, which will hopefully carry us all through.